Hi everybody, it's Cash. Welcome back. Thank you very much for joining me. Today I want to tell you what happened when I went into the energy of the best-selling book, Conversations with God, by Neale Donald Walsch, a publishing phenomenon from the 1990s that sold millions of copies and changed millions of lives. And the images I got for it were quite eye-opening, really. So I'll tell you those. And also I went into the energy of Archangel Michael, because many people have asked for that. But as you know, if you watch the channel, I've been testing the energy of various books, including the Bible and A Course in Miracles and others. And the pictures have been remarkable each time. So much so that when I go into the library or bookstores now, I really want to touch books and see what I get for them. For example, recently I was in a bookstore and I touched a copy of the Bhagavad Gita. It's a Hindu scripture dating back to around the 2nd century BC. It's part of a larger work called the Mahabharata. Many Hindu principles and beliefs and practices coalesce in the Bhagavad Gita, including Dharma, which is what I refer to as the path of higher intention, doing the right thing, and Yoga and Bhakti, which is about devotion and faith and trust. So I simply touched it as I walked by. And immediately I got this image of a valley, and there was a ball rolling down the side of the valley that was nearer to me. It went down to the bottom, and because of the momentum it had, it rolled up the other side to a point, and then it rolled back down again because of gravity to the bottom and up the side that was nearer to me. It got to a certain point, then it rolled back down to the bottom, and this just went on. It was like perpetual motion. And it suggested to me balance and harmony, that no matter how far we may stray from our rightful course, the forces of the universe, the unseen forces, are steering us back to the path. And because we know on the inside of us what is right for us, we have the voice of our conscience talking to us, we have our soul talking to us, and so many other forces in play trying to steer us along the bottom of the valley to our greatest good. Because we have all of that, the natural balance is ultimately restored and harmony is ultimately restored if we pay attention. And that's what I got simply by touching a copy of the Bhagavad Gita as I walked by it in a bookstore, which has made me very intrigued about what else I might see, what I might feel when I touch other important works of literature. For example, in the same bookstore the same day, on the opposite shelf, there was a copy of the Quran. And I went over and touched that as well. Now, the Quran took about 23 years to write. The Prophet Muhammad sort of downloaded it from the angel Gabriel, it said, and then later the texts were compiled into one by scribes and others, so that there was one unifying text. But it's considered to be the finest piece of Arab literature ever written. So I touched it. And when I did, it was as if I had 3 heavy magnets in my head. And I know it sounds like I'm exaggerating, but I wanted to fall over. They were dragging me to the ground, like I almost blacked out. And I did wonder whether that's why Muslims press their forehead to the floor when they pray. It's prostration before God, it's reverence, it's humility before God. But I wanted to sink to the ground. The heaviness of the magnets was pulling me in. Coincidentally, I was in the library the other day looking for Conversations with God. I'll get to that in a second. When I came across this, God is Not Great, written by the late Christopher Hitchens, atheist, intellectual, polemicist, as a rebuke against organized religion, which he believed poisons everything it touches. God is Great, obviously, is from Islam, Allah Akbar, And God is not great was his pushback against that. So I put my hand in between the pages of the book to test the energy of the intention that went into writing. It was Christopher Hitchens being naughty, vexatious, simply pushing religious people into an open debate, or was it more negative than that? And immediately, it was as if, metaphorically speaking, my hand was beginning to curl up and wither. And it continued withering. It's as if I'd aged 100 years in 2 minutes. The skin went all dark, the knuckles were gnarled, and my hand, in the end, looked like I had just been disinterred from a mummified body. That is not a good energy. Now, I know Christopher Hitchens was admired by a lot of people. He was absolutely brilliant intellectually. It was hard to argue with Christopher Hitchens. But that was a very, very awkward, negative, withering energy I got from putting my hand between the pages of the book. But when I was talking about angels just now, many people have asked me to do pictures for angels, particularly Archangel Michael. Now, I would say I'm fairly agnostic about angels. I don't have feelings or beliefs about them one way or the other. Although last time, in the previous video, the one about Atlantis, if you didn't see that, I'll put a link to it in the show notes below this one. I was talking about the world of form that we're in, the 3D world of limitation, and then everything else, the all in all. And I said that there were probably layers between the two. It wasn't simply going from here to there. There were layers, and maybe angels are in those layers. But generally speaking, I am fairly agnostic. But so many people have asked me to do Archangel Michael, an important figure of protection and God's warrior. I think that's probably why I'm slightly dubious, because God is a limitless, eternal field of consciousness and doesn't need warriors and doesn't need guardians and so on. But that's who Archangel Michael is meant to be. So I thought, well, I'll open my mind and I'll take a look and see if anything comes for Archangel Michael. And straight away, there was a fireball, and I was in the tail of it, riding the tail as it shot through the heavens. Only it wasn't heading towards the earth like a comet or meteorite. It was zigzagging and going up and down, this ball with a tail of light, as if it was looking for something, actually. And I didn't know what to make of that. But it did remind me of a trip I made a couple of years ago to Sedona. If you didn't see that video, I'll put a link to it down below. But I was looking for vortices, fields of energy where if you stand in them, you can be healed by that energy. And the conclusion I came to at that time was the vortexes are not simply static fields that you walk into. They were moving too. They were looking for you. So you were seeking the vortexes, but in fact, all you had to do was stand still and the vortexes would find you. You stand still in faith, you stand still in belief, open-minded, and that energy will find you. You don't need to seek it. In fact, stop seeking. Just be. Allow your greater good to find you. That was the conclusion I came to. And I likened it to being a small child in a department store. If you get lost as a child in a department store, don't run around looking for your parents. Stand still. And your parents will find you. Somebody will find you. But if you run around madly looking for your parents, you could be lost for a very long time. And that applied to the vortices. You stand still in Sedona, and you allow what you need to find you. You don't seek what you think is right. And I got the feeling that the same is true of Archangel Michael. It's that same circulating energy. Like if you stand still in faith, you will receive what you need at that time. It's not a matter of superstition. It's about being available, being open enough to receive your greatest good when it arrives. So, then I found a copy of Conversations with God by Neale Donald Walsch. It's a remarkable piece of writing. There are many volumes, I think something like 10 volumes of different forms now, but the first one, subtitled An Uncommon Dialogue, happened because Neale Donald Walsch was in a very bad place in his life. I think homeless, jobless, and kind of desperate. And he had many questions about why this had happened to him. Why me? And he heard a voice that said, do you really want to know? Do you want to know the answer to your question? And then, by means of automatic writing, he basically took dictation. And in the same way that the Prophet Muhammad took dictation, essentially, from the angel Gabriel and turned what he was told into sacred texts, so Neale Donald Walsch took dictation from the voice of God. And there are several principles in the book that I found out by researching it. But first of all, I want to tell you what happened when I stuck my hand into the pages of it, because I didn't know very much about it when I did. And the pictures were very, very telling. As soon as I did that, and I was just sitting in the library with my hand between the pages of Conversations with God, as soon as I did, it was like I was dragged out of my seat and I was on a river, a fast-flowing, wild, crazy, foaming river. Only I was in a boat, an origami boat, floating on the river, and the boat was made out of folded newspaper. So although it was paper, it had a sturdy structure to it. That meant that it would simply float on the surface of the river down to wherever it was heading. And I was in that boat, caught up in the turmoil. There was spray, there was foam, there was noise, and the boat was dragged away by the current. There were big rocks as well, all over the river. The boat went around, but if I were to, and I did try this, if I were to reach out to one of the rocks and try to stop myself free-flowing down the river, then I would actually capsize the little origami newspaper boat. So it was sturdy if you didn't mess with it, but it was fragile and capsizable if you tried to interrupt its flow. And this went on all the way down the river. There were many perils, many rocks, many chances to capsize. And I realized that this was simply a metaphor for our lives. The turbulence is life, not just in our own little world, but out there in the bigger world. It all seems to be so turbulent and so full of frenetic activity and things to worry about. We feel we might capsize at any moment, caught in eddies, going over little waterfalls. It feels constantly as though we are under threat, and we become worried and fearful and anxious. But I realized, as this went on, that the river simply is life. And we are looking for safety, we're looking for things we can cling on to, when in actual fact we should be going with that flow of the river, however turbulent, because that's our school. That's how we learn. That's where we find our belief and our faith. Up until this point, I've always thought that the boat was the thing. Staying safe. and somehow trying to rescue yourself from worries. But actually the river is the thing. And your boat is structured enough and sturdy enough to get over all obstacles and around all rocks and to ride out the current. The current is working in our favor, taking us to where we need to go, giving us chances to learn and to grow and to be the eyes and ears of God. And if we hang on to the rocks, which are the problems, the challenges, resentments maybe, fears, bitterness, whatever has gone on in our life that we stew over, that stays with us, grudges, memories we can't get by, or broken relationships or whatever. Those are the boulders in our way, and if we cling on to them, we will capsize. The trick is to let them happen, go around them, learn from them, and then carry on. The boat is not the thing. The river is the thing. It's about embracing the adventure, staying the course, and daring to really live. And at the end of the river, there was a still pool with dappled sunshine. So it wasn't all sunny at the end. It was calm, but it was dappled. So there were good days and bad days, or good days and concerning days, or whatever, right to the very end. But it became calm as we were able to look back up the river and see all that had transpired, all that we'd overcome. And all we have to do is stay in our little boat, confident that we are being guarded and guided by unseen forces of different kinds, and that we're here to prevail. And we will prevail more strongly, more adequately, more deliberately, if we don't allow the boulders in the river to throw us off course, if we don't cling on to old resentments and our history and things that troubled us in the past, learn from them, go around them, and carry on to the next thing. It's about faith, really, about understanding that we are one with everything, and we are one with the everything of everything. We're not separate, and it's only when we feel like we're separate from God that our troubles begin, because we're trying to swim in the river rather than staying in our little boat. We're clinging onto rocks rather than staying in our little boat. And I think, even though I haven't read Conversations with God, from the energy I got from the pages, I would say that that's probably the through line of it. That we're all one. That you don't need to try so hard. Stop panicking and worrying. And just be confident that you're in your little boat and it's sturdy and it's fine and it's going in the right direction. And the river is working for your benefit. It's propelling you forward. It's not the monster that we tell ourselves that it is. It's life. And life is the thing. The river is the thing. And that's what I got from Conversations with God by Neale Donald Walsch. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you very soon. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.